Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Canning, and I am the managing partner and co founder of RL Canning, headquartered here in Sweet Home, Chicago. And we've been in business for 25 years, and we've had the honor of providing IT managed services at a national as well as global level for clients. And I'm super excited to be here today because we have some incredible panelists that are going to be part of this conversation. And what we're going to be addressing today is a topic that everybody's talking about. And what do we think that might be? AI. That's right. Lots of folks are having AI FOMO. And we want to talk a little bit about AI FOMO, going from FOMO to framework. But before we get into that, I would like to introduce these lovely gentlemen that are sitting to the right of me over here. Our very own Corey, lots of wisdom. We always tease him. He's our vice president of service delivery for RL Canning, and he brings with him 15 years of experience. And he literally gets giddy when he works with clients to talk to them about how they can do things better, more efficiently with the utilization of technology. And our very special guest here and dear friend, Ron Guerrier. Ron, thank you for being here with us today. He is a 4-time CIO for organizations like Toyota, Financial Services, HP, Express Scripts. He was a previous Secretary of Technology and Innovation for the state of Illinois, and I had the honor of working with him there. And he is an all-around amazing human being that is incredibly passionate about making impact with the utilization of technology. So, gentlemen, welcome.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
I am so excited to have you here, and we're going to have some fun. We're going to be honest about technology, direct about technology. And Ron, let's start off with you. I'd love to know, AI is such a big word that everyone's using day in and day out. It's like somewhat overused, right? It's kind of like synergy and innovation. Remember those words, guys?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to hear from you to describe AI in a meaningful way for those of us that are regular civilians that are not as giddy as you gentlemen are about technology.
Oh, thank you. And again, thank you for the invite. I'm proud to be next to Mr. Wisdom over here and in your energy, Rachel. So thank you for the invite to kind of have this conversation. So in this basic form, artificial intelligence has been around well over 75 years. It really started off as an idea among scientists after World War II, decoding cryptology and everything. But in short, Dr. Alan Turing is the one who actually started the coining artificial intelligence. And the idea is, when could computers and systems outwit a human?
Mhm.
When does it have an intelligence level above or matching a human? That's the idea. And over time, with better compute, better mathematics, better systems, it got smarter and smarter and smarter. And things like robot process automation, machine learning, all that was working in the interim. Compute got better, and then boom,
Mhm.
ChatGPT rolled out the version that we see today of Gen AI,
Mhm.
and all the learning they couldn't get into the lab, we became the lab. We humans started inputting things, asking questions, and now it's learning from us.
Mhm.
And so basically, it's a computer program that has a lot of intelligence in it, a lot of logic, and in short, it gives you the next best action based off what it's learning.
Mhm.
So if I take a right on a street, and I've always taken a right, it learns that pattern, and then it'll tell me next time take another right because that's learning my pattern.
Mhm.
So essentially, it's about pattern recognition and mathematics, but it is absolutely amazing what it's going to do. But in short, that's what artificial intelligence is. It's been around for a while, and it's just breaking through at this point.
Oh my gosh, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Corey, we were talking about ChatGPT being a toddler, right? It's only just 3 years old. So what do you gentlemen think about that? It just being just 3 years old, and what it's going to do in terms of changing how we approach our businesses.
Yeah, it's come a long way. I mean, it's everywhere. It's in every tool application, enterprise application either has a plugin or you have the native AIs like ChatGPT or Claude or Copilot, and so it is everywhere. But I think folks need to understand how to leverage it. And I think you had a great analogy around the infancy that we're in, right? Because it's less than 3 years old, which is just shocking. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
With how prevalent it is and how many folks are using it. But it really is a toddler, and we need to kind of handle it that way, right?
Correct. And real quick on that is when those of you in your audience and yourselves, and I'm a dad, we're all parents
Yeah.
on this panel, and how you raise your kid, the influencers, the friends that they hang with,
Yes.
the teacher, over time, how is it learning and adjusting? Is it ethical in how it behaves?
Mhm.
All that has to be kind of applied to the lens of AI because it's literally 3 years young.
Yeah.
Actually, this week as we record this. So we really have to kind of really understand how do we influence it in the proper way.
Correct.
Or we go into a sci-fi movie that we're all worried about.
Yeah.
And Arnold will show
Dystopian
up.
nightmare.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
No, and I love that you went down that path in terms of like the different agents. So, I mean, what's your thoughts? ChatGPT, Grok, Copilot. What's the difference between those three?
They're all a little different, and I think depending on what your use case is and your need, you should be using different ones, or folks are kind of naturally migrating to them. We actually have a slide that we'll throw up in the video side of this that shows the kind of four major players. So Claude, Grok, Copilot, and ChatGPT. And we thought it'd be an interesting exercise to actually ask the AIs or the LLMs if they knew the differences between. So we had them create their own image, like self-portrait. And we did ChatGPT and said, hey, create yourself, and Grok and Claude and all of those. And it was interesting because it did all of them, and it did it with a little bit of a tune or change to each one. So ChatGPT is kind of your normal everyday brainstorming friend. It had a very standard look. And then Grok is a little bit unhinged. It can be, in some cases, very unhinged, but it's different. It has access to Twitter and what do they call it now? X?
Yes.
X. And so it has access to all that kind of real-time social data, which is good. If you want to get something that's more real-time or more sentiment about something, you can use Grok. Claude is really good at coding and used for a lot of academic needs. I think there was a recent study that showed about 65% of the users were using it for coding, so heavy use there. And then Copilot's kind of the enterprise trusted, and it's been the lagging AI, I would say, in terms of functionality. A year ago, we weren't recommending it to customers, but it's come a long way in the last year. And now I think more and more folks are looking, okay, how can I, instead of going and buying a dedicated tool or software platform with AI, can I simply integrate it or connect it into Copilot and make that the one agent to rule them all, or the one agent that's the interface for my customers?
Absolutely. And the only thing I'd add to that, because I think Corey hit it out of the park, is Alexa, which we're used to today, is now adding more of an AI feel to it. So it's a little bit more generative. So that is actually emerging. And when you think about Google, Gemini is something that every time you do a Google search, Gemini is on the back end actually giving you an AI choice as well. So when people say, well, I'm going to avoid AI, I'm just going to use the old school stuff. Even the old school stuff is getting upgraded with AI enhancements. And so, and going back to real quick on Grok and other things, is some of those are unfiltered. And those of us who are parents do want to make sure that what our children are listening to it makes sense, because, mental health, raising children, we want to make sure we're in the room when it happens. Our Alexander Hamilton moment. And we want to do the same with our children. So just be very aware of what your children are looking at when it comes to that, and your coworkers and your peers. So it's very important that you pick the right tool from that utility belt of AI tools.
And Ron, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I know in our conversation yesterday, we were talking about the subject matter, and we were talking about how it did become a bit unhinged.
Yes.
So do you have any perspective on that in terms of, maybe you might share that scenario just a bit, and that was more on a personal side to your point as a parent, that would be very alarming. How do you translate that as well as becoming unhinged in a business environment or business?
100%. So the example you're talking about is recently in Canada, someone was driving their Tesla vehicle and Grok was on there, and their child asked a question, and Grok gave a very, unfortunately, an adult spin to the answer, inappropriate for a child. And so for me, that's parental control. You have to make sure you're paying attention to what your kids are doing.
Absolutely.
But let's translate to the work environment. You have coworkers, you have people, and are you getting the right answer? And the one example I always have, I've been deposed 5 times in my career. Where you're sitting in front of a bunch of lawyers and they're asking you a bunch of questions. As a stenographer, everything you say is being recorded on something that happened 3 or 4 years earlier. And I always think about it is, what decisions am I making today, and would I still be comfortable with it if I was deposed later? So as an executive, as a finance exec, would I be comfortable saying, well, AI told me that, so therefore I did that? Or do you not want to make sure that you've double checked the work? Or you might be deposed one day, and will you be able to be comfortable to be able to answer the questions honestly? So I think that's one of the concerns I have. You always have to be in the center of the conversation with AI, at least in the early phases as we build it.
Yeah.
We're seeing the same thing on the business side where, there's a number of stories of folks delivering a deliverable or, using it and just trusting what it was. You actually had an interesting take about ask it for books, right? And just say, give me books. They usually give 10. And then if you ask for ISBN numbers, the actual code that you can search on Amazon and find, well, it doesn't quite give you the 10, right? Because it's making up and filling in some of the gaps. And so you really have to be careful with it. And I think from a business standpoint, you have to be intentional with what you're going after, right?
Oh,
What's the ROI? What are you looking to achieve for your business? And really focus and narrow the scope, not just willy-nilly enter into this AI journey.
And like a child, it wants to please you. And going back to that story, during my research at USC, I was asking for, can I get 10 books on whatever? And it created 10 books. And I said, okay, fine. Which one of these do have the ISBN number? 6 of them came back as real books. It created 4 fake books because it thought that's what I wanted. Now, if I made a decision on those fake books, then it would taint kind of my research. So think about it in a work setting. You're asking for something that is SOX compliance or something that's really relevant to work, and it tries to make something up, and you make that your decision, you'll have to retract it later. And there was a case in the legal profession. My daughter is an attorney currently, and so she told me the story where lawyers were using AI to kind of do some of the tort reviews and everything. It was wrong, and they had to rescind what they were doing in the court deposition. So
it's a big deal.
Again, technology is leading ahead of kind of regulation.
And I was just going to ask you about that. So how, as a user, as an end user, how do you trust that information is accurate or not accurate? Because especially if you're asking it a specific question for a specific outcome, how do you validate that?
Well, for me, real quick, and I'll pass it to Corey on this one, is just human-centered design. Make sure you have people in the room. And when people, and we'll probably talk about this, but when people think, well, AI is going to take my job, we'll talk about it a little bit more depth. But for us to do this right, we always have to be room. We have to have the experts in the room to check it. Now, over time, it's going to get better. It's going to get smarter. But at the end of the day, we have to be part of that decision-making process.
Correct.
No different when you have an autonomous vehicle. They always tell you someone has to be behind the wheel to drive it, unless you're in a Waymo. But yes, you have to make sure you're behind a Tesla, for example, in autonomous mode. This is no different. You have to hold on to the steering wheel.
Got it. Corey, do you want to add in?
I think the same thing from a business standpoint of what we're seeing in customer environments is you want to make sure that if folks are going to be using it, it's in a controlled fashion, right? You have those guardrails. I think that there's different use cases, right? We're seeing if you just want to go to ChatGPT, you have to be careful about what data, sensitive data, customer data, PII, healthcare, legal data, right? Any of that type of stuff that you'd be putting out there because it no longer becomes yours. You're kind of putting it out into the wild, so to speak, and letting it learn off of it. And so there's a lot on the vendor management side and validating that up front, but that's why we're kind of directing customers towards Copilot, where you can put better guardrails, control it, know what data it's learned from so that you can make sure that it's not pulling in things that are invalid, but you still have to be careful because it's not always accurate. And so don't trust it, validate, verify, verify what you have and just make sure that it's accurate before you put your name on it.
So, gentlemen, what are your thoughts like with AI and all organizations and leaders or now everyone's trying to race to get AI launched. So what do you think they should be really thinking about, right? There's so many to be efficient, for it to have impact on the organization. So what would you recommend that leaders should be really thinking about? It's great. I love this because Ron, you lead these organizations and Corey's instrumental in driving what you're leading and what you want to accomplish. So I'd love to hear your perspectives on that.
So I think that what leaders can do, we're at a interesting point because it seems we talk about FOMO. I think that's what the last probably year and a half we've seen is folks were just rushing to AI. Every CEO was asked about it. They need to have a plan. They were investing in tools, doing a lot of pilots. And I think now we're kind of that pivot point's coming where, okay, I need an ROI. I need to have an outcome. I need to have a deliverable here. And so you're seeing folks get much more serious and kind of move from pilots to a structured, more focused approach. And I think, I mean, we talked about this previously, but do all the same tactics and techniques that you're used to doing in IT, right? Have a review board, think about your use case, have a clear ROI, track progress, be agile as things shift within the technology landscape. Use all those best practices that you're used to. You need to do the same with AI. It's no different. And I think for a while, folks were kind of throwing all those best practices to the wayside and just getting AI for AI's sake, rather than really having a clear plan. So we're seeing that shift happen now. And so if there's any leaders that are hit that pivot point, develop that plan, develop the strategy, and execute. Just do what you're used to doing.
Yeah. And to the listeners out there, for those who don't know, FOMO is fear of missing out. And YOLO, that's a whole different one. But
you only live once.
You only live once. But the beautiful thing about AI is that it's a solution, but it's not the be all end all. And people are seeing it as a hammer that can fix anything.
Okay.
And 80 to 85% of projects are failing because they're saying, well, I'll apply AI to it.
Okay.
So my parents are from Haiti, and there's a castor oil. And castor oil is something that they apply on every wound. Whether you have a cough, you have a skin knee.
Latinos apply Vicks.
Yeah, there you go. Vicks Vapor Rub. Yeah, I'm well aware of that. And my daughter ran a marathon, and she had a blister. My mom decided to give her some castor oil. It was like it applied on everything. And the reason I give this example is AI is it's not that. It shouldn't be applied on everything. You have to really understand why you're using it.
Yep.
Have the hygiene and discipline that Corey spoke of. And be comfortable to say, okay, this is not working. There is a sunk cost fallacy when it comes to these projects that since I already put $5 in, let me add another 10, another 10, another 10. And they realize that they got nothing out of it. And before we even go there, just make sure your data governance is as good as possible. There's no such thing as 100% perfect data, but are you comfortable with the data? Because if your data is wrong, your AI outcome will be wrong.
Yes, garbage in,
So
garbage
really you have to make sure you get that right. And I made a comment when I was speaking at a Davos event and just came out of the side of my head, but it's like AI is like fire and water. Fire could sustain you and kill you. Water could sustain you, but also drown you. So you really have to understand the balance of when you use AI. And the one thing I really enjoy is like working with organizations that get it, but also realizes that no one is an expert in this field. No one really is an expert. And so when you partner with someone, really question their credentials and say, give me examples. And if they're honest with you and say, hey, we're also figuring out together, that's a winning partner you want to be with because they want to work with you and they want to rub shotgun with you on this trip.
Correct. Yeah, no, that's great.
It's all changing so much. You mentioned the data governance, and that's something we're seeing where folks are just, they release Copilot to everybody, all their employees. And then they go, oh, we didn't realize that sensitive documents or data was out there in an area that we didn't expect it to be. And so we're doing a number of projects around Microsoft Purview and getting that governance and tagging and proper controls so that as they introduce these things, the data governance is in place. Because like you said, garbage in, garbage out. If you have bad data or you have data that they shouldn't have access to, they may be able to get there more easily with Copilot. And you need to be thinking about those things before you deploy it rather than trying to react and do a dive and catch afterwards.
Oh, absolutely. So what kind of advice would you give to leaders? Like there's so many agents out there, and we talked about that. There's so many various applications. There's applications that, companies or enterprises use that use AIs. What kind of advice would you give to them regarding that AI component? And how should they evaluate that in terms of procuring those services?
So for me, from a practitioner's point of view, I always focus on 3 areas on any org I've been in, whether it's nonprofit, government, whatever. Data. Make sure you have really strong data understanding, governance, the best you can. Cyber, bad actors, and we'll talk about this probably in a second, but have a good cyber because right now deep fakes are real and they're really good. So we really got to understand cyber. But architecture, how your systems are talking to each other, how data is being consumed, ingested, really having a good understanding of that. And then the second part of that, while I'm saying there is make sure that you're not leaving it to your IT team to do it on their own. We're amazing people in IT, but we don't have all the answers as well. The business has to take ownership of this process. It is so new, and take us back 15 years, blockchain, that was a phase that we went through. And then it didn't pan out in certain areas because we didn't have the business in every conversation. So always include the business as much as possible.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's interesting. So that dynamic, are you seeing that dynamic taking place, based on when you started earlier in your career to where everybody is now?
100%. Because I remember when I started in tech, I was not a CIO. I was a system development person, whatever that means. And in system development, it was kind of just we fixed it.
Yep.
Or it was an order taker. Like think about burgers.
Yep.
I want a burger with cheese, and you pull it off as the next one in. Now it's about integrating what we do with the business each and every time, and you have to do that for AI.
Yep.
You can't do it. And AI literacy, if you want to touch on that one, I think that is also the rubric that we have to crack. People have to upskill themselves in AI.
Yeah. There's a couple layers to that because AI literacy is key. We're seeing a lot of folks struggling with adoption right now.
What does that mean when you say?
Yeah.
Could you kind of elaborate a little bit about that? Like, what AI literacy is a huge topic, and so kind of share with us.
I think knowing how to use it, knowing the use cases. A lot of folks say, "Okay, great, I have Copilot. What am I going to do with it? What can I do with it? Right? What are some good use cases to, make my life easier or assist me?" A lot of folks don't know how to unlock that, right? So there's actually training through Microsoft or giving guidance from IT to unlock that. There's also a real fear of it. I mean, a real concern or failure to adopt because people think it's going to take my job, or I'm fearful of it. I don't want to do that. And so those are barriers that leaders are going to have to break down. So I think don't underestimate that fact of having an AI literacy plan, a training and enablement plan around it, and also some way to track adoption. We're using NextThink right now as one of our partners and platforms to track that for customers and see what's in use. And we were talking with our architect just last night, and he had mentioned we've not done a proof of value or turned up this functionality for a customer that we didn't identify AI in their environment they didn't expect, right? So they may think, oh yeah, I have a control over it. My enterprise approves Copilot. But when you get in there and you start tracking what's actually in use and how it's being adopted and leveraged across the organization, you're probably going to be surprised. So you have to be thinking of these factors: literacy, adoption, how you're going to track it and improve it.
It's the one thing I do want to add to that. And I think you hit it on the head, Corey. But the other thing is the psychology of change with any technology. The wheel was technology. An abacus was technology. Fire was technology. Everyone adapted, but it took a while where they didn't want to touch the fire. They didn't know what it was. And I think AI is where there's apprehension. And I remember I was speaking at an event on campus at USC, and I asked everyone to put their phones down, and I gave everyone a Post-it note and write down 5 phone numbers off the top of your head. Please try it.
I would fail.
And
I don't even know my children's
number. And it was very interesting that the professors in the room were able to do 3 of them, at least 3. The younger generation could not do 1 because they're so used to being on their phone. If they lost their phone, it was kind of, it's over, right? And there was also a study that, if they had to give up their phone or their toothbrush, which would they give up first? They would actually share their toothbrush before they share their phone.
Oh my God.
So yes, adoption is real. This is no different with AI. It's going to take us a while, but we have put all our eggs in the digital basket, whether we like it or not. So how do we prepare ourselves for that journey? And it is a journey that we're all in right now.
I mean, you gentlemen touched on something too. You were talking about how the fear of AI taking our jobs. I mean, I'm of that age where I have had the privilege and honor to see the evolution of technology. And I was in a desperate situation. I had to go to a fast food restaurant, and I walked in. Much to my dismay, there was no one behind a counter. It was a bunch of these kiosks. I'm like, well, where's the person that is going to take my order? And just even when I go to a grocery store, there's just a bunch of kiosks. Now I'm, checking out my groceries. And so when I went into the fast food restaurant, I'm like, those are 6 jobs that were eliminated because they didn't need the people, taking the orders for the patrons. So what's your thoughts on that with AI? I mean, I'm so old that I remember that people used to pump my gas, that's
well, in 2
fun.
states, they still do that. I believe in Portland, in Oregon, and in New Jersey, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so yes, there you go.
That's impressive that you know that piece of trivia.
I do, because I was in both locations.
He probably got yelled at for trying to pump his own.
I did. I was told,
Don't take my job.
Sir, please get back in the car.
Yeah.
But real quick on that one, think about it, how things have evolved. When I was at Toyota for many years, I put data centers together. Our job was to build data centers. My job was to engineer them, make sure the phone works, if something goes wrong. And the data roles, they went away. Data center roles went away. And I started hiring cloud engineers. So the role transformed to a cloud engineer. And then cloud engineering changed. And now, the discussion about prompt engineers. The roles are still there. They're just kind of reformatted in a different way. And it's about upskilling. Now, there are some roles that are going to go away. And I'll give you a quick example. Back in the day when people were plowing fields, there was a mule or an ox, and someone was behind it with and pushing and following along. Very laborious work.
Mm.
And then here in our great state of Illinois, McCormick and everyone did their things, and everything got automated.
Mhm.
Those jobs eventually went away through automation.
Yeah.
But they shifted to other jobs. And so I think there's going to be a shift of job force. And so it's about going back to AI literacy, getting us prepared for what that looks like and how AI is going to be an assistant for us in this new world.
Yeah.
But some jobs are going to go away. It's natural.
Yeah.
But some jobs are just going to kind of change into new jobs. And we have to prepare our workforce and our business partners to what that looks like. And I think as leaders, that's something that we have to do the best we can because we're learning along the way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes back to those use cases. If you know how you're going to use it, then you can prepare appropriately for that. We have Service Desk as an offering that we have, and we're trying to prepare for that and our model into the future. It's going to be an evolution, not a revolution, and we're not going to be there overnight, but we can prepare our agents to be on the process rather than in the process doing it. So instead of doing a password reset as a simple example, they're no longer going to be performing that task. We're going to have an AI chatbot that's going to perform that function for them. But we still need somebody on the process and monitoring the AI. Did it respond as we would expect? Did it hallucinate? Did it kind of get off track? Is it providing examples that they shouldn't, right? Even in our testing of some of the capabilities, sometimes it would be great. Other times it would give 7 answers to the same question.
Yeah.
And that's not the right behavior. And so it's a huge opportunity for folks to upskill themselves. That's what we're doing with our Service Desk agents so that they can help better manage AI. And for a lot of our customers that are adopting Gemini or their own kind of LLMs internally, that's a huge opportunity because they're saying, hey, I'm building them quickly and we have a ton of use cases, but I need somebody to kind of manage and maintain them once I build them so I can go do the next one.
Yeah.
And so that's a great opportunity to kind of upskill a Service Desk, use them for that, give them a career path, and have a huge support organization to maintain all these agents that you're going to see and be building out.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Interesting. So I recently read a study at MIT that folks that or organizations that have tried to launch AI and get a return on their investment, that it wasn't successful.
Yeah.
So what do you gentlemen think about that? Like, what do you think about, and what should leaders be thinking about in order to get a positive ROI?
So 20 years at Toyota, I've picked up a couple Japanese terms, even though I can't speak it too well. But Kaizen is one of them that I've just lived by, continuous improvement. But you also have to establish the right metrics. You can't fix what you don't record or measure. So come in with really good measurement of what you're trying to fix. And more importantly, create guardrails and checkpoints. So after the first quarter, check with everyone. Does this still do what we think it's going to do? Do we need to make an adjustment, or do we need to kind of stop it, learn from it, and move on?
Okay.
The ability to fail fast is something that's super important. I remember one time I was on the cover of CIO magazine. I was very proud, and it said, at Toyota has learned how to fail. And I was so proud of myself. Everything was great. And then I got a call to go to Nagoya, one-way ticket. They'll buy my ticket back after a discussion. And they wanted to understand, what did this American mean about failure? And I remember sitting in a room and no one was giving me eye contact. And ultimately they asked me what's going on. And I reminded them the Prius, the first one, was one of the worst Priuses ever. It was not a good Prius. But by the third Prius, it was the best-selling hybrid in America. That is failing fast, learning, and getting better. I was applying the Toyota principle to how we think. And then I got a free meal and I got a trip back to America. So I was very excited about that, but I was also nervous because it's okay to be comfortable to know that you're failing at something, be aware of it, and move on. And the other quick thing I'll say is Socrates said, I know I'm intelligent because I know I don't know everything. And the minute someone arrogantly comes in and says, this is the way it's going to be, you should have comfort in questioning what they're trying to do. So that's what I'll say when it comes to AI.
Yeah. I think organizations need to, again, have that plan, have that strategy, have that ROI, go back to those basics, those fundamentals we talked about earlier, because too often there's too many pilots. They're just kind of going at it without that plan and strategy. I think that's why a lot of it's failing. And I think also in that particular example, a lot of it's around the investment that hasn't really panned out in terms of getting the, they're kind of building it, hoping to be a leader, or hoping to differentiate themselves without the major return. And so we are going to see a shift where some consolidation, that entropy to consolidation always naturally happens with technology. And so you're going to start seeing who those leaders are. And customers that we're dealing with just need to stay agile because things are shifting, they're changing. And so be willing to adapt, like Ron was saying.
And be comfortable with the proof of concepts.
Mm-hmm.
We all know what those are. The minimum viable products, test and learn it, see if it breaks, and then move on. But just put a big box effort into AI and says it's all for, just be very conscious of what you're investing in. I think that's very important. And again, the data. Where's your data coming from? Because if it's wrong, your outcome's going to be wrong.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out.
And so as we were saying, everyone is racing to, adopting AI. How do you gentlemen think you would prepare end users to adopt AI within organizations?
Get them involved. Have a committee. Have them in a strategy council or something to get their use cases and track that. You were showing an example to us of what you were doing in terms of that ideation, so that we can put it in there, know what we're going to go after. They can be involved. I think that's the best thing that you can do right now, is make sure that they're actively engaged and involved in the process, and they can kind of help. They have to be a champion, right?
100%.
If you're just getting them tools or getting them solutions without having that feedback, it's going to be challenging.
And I miss your analogy, as you know. And my analogy is I've been on 74 flights on United this calendar year. We're in November, I think.
Wow.
And one thing I appreciate, as frustrating as it is, they now tell me when their pilots have flown too long. They explain the details as to what's going on with the delay. Like, I know more detail than I've ever had. And I remember back when they didn't give the detail, I got frustrated. Now I feel like I'm in the know. I can manage my life. I'm aware. And a lot of times I know on my phone before actually I go to the gate agent. And so I'm okay with that. At least I can prepare myself for what's next. And I think that's what, lack of a better term, the staff wants to know. Because they assume that leaders have all the answers. And again, I started as a repo agent at Toyota and made it up to CIO. And every single time I got promoted into something, I got to the next level. I'm like, wait a second. These people are just human. They're just like me. They have no clue what they're doing. We can do this together. And so I think we have to be very comfortable to tell our staff what we don't know and learn from them, because they have so much knowledge they could bring to the table, and we need to bring them in. Again, Alexander Hamilton, be in the room when it happens. Bring your staff in.
So I have to giggle because yesterday when we were talking about Sora, and I just would love your thoughts. You had shared with us, Ron, as you know, you had a photograph. I mean, it was crazy. I was like literally mind blown that he had this photograph, and in the photograph, it was able to transpose it. And you went from this professional to like a gangster. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, and especially like from a business environment, somebody could capture an image of you, might represent you in a way that is not, what you have done, from a security perspective, et cetera, et cetera. What's your thoughts on Sora?
So quick one. And on that one, it was an image that we were on a trip to India, and me and my chief of staff, and he was in the military, and he made it stylized like we're in the movie Heat with Robert De Niro. That was pretty cool. But it looked real. And I think the concern right now with the deep fakes that kind of we're walking into is that if your spidey sense is tingling, if your woman intuition or whatever kind of makes you feel a certain way, trust your gut. Because things are just getting a little odd right now, especially in the early throngs of it. And so when you see something that doesn't make sense, reach out to your cyber team, say, hey, and they could learn from those examples. Our president and CEO at the organization I'm at today, she got a request from the CFO. It was a video of him asking her to sign a DocuSign to release roughly $200K worth of funds for something. And she's like, this is weird. He never sends me a video request. A red flag, contacted me. We were able to kill it, blah, blah, blah. But again, it's getting so realistic that's very hard. And so I was pulling your cyber team, and something I said a little bit earlier, make sure your cyber team is well aware. And every time there's new technology, there's two groups that I want to make three groups. I want the legal team to understand the change in tech. I want your auditors to understand the change in tech. And I want your cyber team to understand so you can get ahead of it. Because if you don't get those three groups ahead of it, then everyone's in a reactive mode. Then you trust nothing. And that's not where you want to be. You get paralyzed. So that's my quick example of how I would deal with that.
Sora's scary, though. I mean, it is.
Wow.
That came out, it's like, whoa. Even the whole premise that we're going to be using it like a TikTok, but it's, all going to be AI generated, its own kind of social media. But yeah, from a business perspective, I think you touched on a lot of the points of legal involved. Like, we're seeing a lot with just vendor management. If you're going to bring in a new tool or you're going to do something that has AI, what model are they using? How is your data stored? Are they training off of it, right? These are questions that lawyers weren't having to answer or ask just a short time ago. And so now you need to be thinking of these things from a vendor management perspective, preparing for it, and preparing your end users to communicate those things if they see them. Because if you see something, say something, that type of
Yeah,
model of you
absolutely.
got to report up to cybersecurity. And we're even seeing interesting examples of agents out there that are kind of being social engineered by AI,
Yeah.
where they can do, different injections or capabilities through that bot. And so there's so much just complexity and nuance to it. But I just go back to your same IT fundamentals. Like you just got to have a plan, know what you're going after, and track it, engage it throughout the process.
And think about when we used to do phishing campaigns. Most of the cyber teams nowadays give out those fake phishing, and you hit a
Yeah.
button for training because you hit a button. And we always learn that, for example, if you send free roses on February 14th, most men tend to hit I'm going to hit those free roses.
Yeah.
I forgot to. And it caught a lot of executives at the companies I've been at, and they be sent to training.
Mhm.
The same thing has to apply to a deep fake.
Yeah.
We should be able to send deep fakes to our team, say, hey, did you learn from that? What did you see that was different? And then learn from that. So just like the structures we've had in the past with phishing, this is no different with Sora.
Yeah.
But it gets a lot harder.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. We have to pay attention. We have to
100%.
be intentional. That is also critical.
Yeah.
And you gentlemen were talking earlier, like those words, governance,
Mhm.
regulation.
Mhm.
One of my least favorite is budget. I don't like the word budget. But that's that's really critical.
Mhm.
That's really important. Are there controls? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Could you elaborate? I think that's worth rediscussing because it is so important.
Yeah, I think the controls you already have come in place, and Mr. Analogy is going to come with his 15th one right now. One of my favorite movies is Ford versus Ferrari. If you haven't seen it, it's a great movie. It's
Mhm.
about something back in the 60s in racing. And it gives you the concept that the fastest cars out there, because I love cars and race cars, have the biggest, strongest brakes.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they have strong brakes and big brakes? Because a fast car has to be able to turn quickly and stop quickly, right? You have to be very agile.
Mhm.
So for you as an organization, if you want to be very fast to the market, you want to really do the right things and be agile, really arm your cyber team and your architecture team and your governance with the right tools so they can make sure they break you and slow you down so you don't go down over a cliff. And so really appreciate governance. And a lot of people see governance as, oh, those guys.
Mhm.
Oh, they're getting in my, they're stopping my innovation. But the best innovations happens when you do have the right governance and regulation around it. So you can go fast and be agile. So that's kind of how I sell it to my staff. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. As arduous as it is,
Yep.
we have to do that more and more with AI. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
agreed. I was turned on to the whole idea of ISO 42001 recently, and that whole cyber assurance or attestation that folks can now go through
Mhm.
and show that they're compliant. And so I think if you're building your own LLM or you're building your own AI agent internally, or you're bringing in a vendor that has their own that is not simply a Copilot or one of these off-the-shelf type models,
Mhm.
you need to begin asking about that, like what compliance controls are in place. And so the 42001 does have a whole framework. I know we talked about NIST now has some controls. And then if you can touch on the EU AI Act, because some of the stuff is already out in the marketplace and folks need to be aware of it and reacting to it appropriately.
Correct. And your governance and your legal we talked about,
Yep.
they should be informing the group of those changes.
Yep.
Because the one thing we remind ourselves that data traverses rivers and political lines. Like it's
Mhm.
everywhere. It's on the internet.
Mhm.
So we have to make sure we understand if you're a global company or you're a multinational,
Mhm.
what works here in America may not work in Brazil because data sovereignty is important. They don't want data to leave the country. So
Mhm.
are you aware of those rules or do you want to get a fine? So those things you really have to pay attention to more and more often. So understand the landscape that you're doing business in. But it's all out there, and the ability to learn that is
Yep.
super critical for your team.
Yep.
Really respect governance, especially when a new technology comes out.
Yeah.
And you think about Uber. When Uber first came out, I was in London, I remember. And I remember they were striking.
Mhm.
The cab drivers were striking, and they're losing their business to Uber, if you guys remember those times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nowadays, if you go to the Uber app in London, those cab drivers are an option on the Uber app. So
Yeah.
it evolved to the point that they were inclusive. But again, through regulation, it worked itself out. But respect the regulation the best you can.
Yep. No,
Yep.
absolutely. Absolutely. This is awesome.
Thank
You guys are incredible. And, as we wrap up here, I guess, what are your final words on, talking to business leaders in terms of They don't want to lag in AI. They want to continue to move forward and make impact within the organization. We touched on the fact that, ChatGPT and some of these technologies are just 3 years
Mhm.
old. And I would venture to say that in the next 3 years, there's going to be an incredible 3 to 5 years, an incredible shift and change.
Mhm.
But, as we wrap up here, and if you would provide both of you, your final words on what advice you would give to business leaders that really want to be successful in this space, what does that look like?
So I'll start and pass it to Corey to
Mhm.
close. So for me, it's all about collaboration between IT and business, and we've talked about it for years. Is it digital? Is it the marketing team? Is it tech? Is it your CDO? It's all included.
Hmm.
Be very collaborative. Create a forum so everyone could come together and talk about what AI is and what it isn't.
Hmm.
Going back to the AI
Mhm.
literacy that Corey spoke to, and the last thing is really make sure that the human is in the loop.
Hmm.
Just like an autonomous vehicle, you have to be behind the steering wheel for bumps and things that happen. You can't obfuscate your responsibility. You have to be involved, especially in these early days of AI.
Hmm.
But think of it the positive. It's going to do some really cool, interesting
Mhm.
things and unlock so much more. But really be kind of cautiously optimistic in these early years.
Hmm.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I think it's have that strategy, have that plan, know what you're going after.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Again, it's not you had a great phrase that I'm gonna butcher now, but don't be AI looking for a problem, find your problem and then see what AI or what expression of AI
I
is the
like
right
that.
solution.
Yep.
Right. Because we have many folks that is now assist and service now the right thing, or is copilot is in
Hmm.
depending on what your needs are, it may be very different. Or
Yep.
it may not even be AI, it may be RPA or maybe something completely different.
Yep.
So know what your problem is first and be focused on that. Execute your fundamentals like we talked about. Review boards, tracking, modeling, making sure that you're tracking metrics and adoption, etc.
Hmm.
And then don't underestimate the literacy and adoption because again, that's the number one thing we're seeing folks struggle with is we got Copilot, but no one's adopting it or they're not using it correctly.
Yep.
And make sure you have your guardrails in place in terms of where they can go, where they shouldn't use it, etc.
Hmm.
And that they know what can be uploaded, what can be shared, what's sensitive, that type of sensitive information. So, yeah, but again, figure out that use case because it's going to transform everything we do,
Hmm.
and you want to be enacting it in the best way possible for your business.
Awesome.
And as a practitioner, partner with the right partners. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I'm going to go back to that one.
R.L. Canning?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Partner with a
Easy
partner
one.
that gets it, who understands it, and will actually kind of buttress you. Because at the end of the day, as a CIO, I've had cases where breaches happen not through my team; it came through kind of the partner community,
Hmm.
and so everyone has to have the same mindset to kind of move this thing forward. So partner with the right partners, and of course, RL Canning is one of them as
Hmm.
they partner with you at the state of Illinois.
Hmm.
But again, really, that's important because you're only as strong as the people around you.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, Corey, Ron, this has been an absolute pleasure.
thank you.
Thank you so much for all this valuable information. I'm fairly confident that the user community is going to really benefit from learning about what we just talked about. So thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
I
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rachel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Corey.